Hey y'all, hey, we are back for another review of Sisters. We're on season 9, episode 12, entitled Search Party. Of course, aptly titled because at the end of the hiatus, we didn't have an episode last week, but at the end of episode 11, we see that Karen went missing with baby Faith. She left without her phone. She left a note saying that she wanted to end this chapter. Her car keys in her car are left there and nobody can find her. Nobody can locate her or speak to her. So we pick back up with that and we see Sabrina and Danny trying to, processing what Aaron is telling them over the phone as far as the note and Sabrina missing and, all that comes with that. And we're all kind of thinking the same thing, end of a chapter, it's giving very final. It's giving... she might do something. So we got to locate her as quickly as possible. So that's what everybody's kind of going to be navigating throughout the whole episode. All right, so we see Danny, and Danny reminds us, Sabrina, of course, she's the hopeful one. And she's like, maybe she wanted to spend some time with the baby alone and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And Danny's like, girl, let me remind you that Karen has been depressed. She's going through postpartum. She lost that baby, not to mention everything she's had to go through over the last couple years, with the big breakups and the back and forth when it comes to Zach. Not being able to get over him, knowing that he's now with Fatima. The fire that happened at the old salon. Just a lot of things that she's had to deal with back to back to back. So this could be the last straw, the lost her baby forever. And we now have to navigate, what her thought process could be to try to figure out where she is. Meanwhile, we see Gary. Gary shows up at Andy's apartment and she's less than interested in speaking to him, seeing him, letting him touch her, letting him get, they're having a conversation and she is walking around the table. He's trying to catch up to her and she's like, nope. Get out of here. I don't want to talk. I don't want nothing to do with you. None of it. She even goes so far as to threaten to call the police and everything. He's like, no, you don't got to do all that. All I need is 5 minutes. I want a simple conversation and I'm out of your hair forever. She's like, all right, just keep it cute. And he claims that his biggest regret is how he tried to control her and how bad he was to her, and he wants to right his wrongs and blah, blah, blah. And admits that he did treat her badly and wanted to control her, and the myriad of things that he's did to her over these 9 seasons. Honestly, just kind of recapping all of that. And he claims that he needed to admit who he was and to make it right, and that she can, say whatever she wants to who he was, and to not penalize who he is for who he was back then. Not sure how he's going to be unable to do that in a 5-minute conversation, but here we are. He tells her that he's there to apologize for everything that he's done to her, everything she's had to experience, blah, blah, blah. And we kind of see this montage of the times. He was like, well, you got to admit that there were some good times sprinkled in there. Yes, of course. Of course, for everything that ends, every day was not bad. So, of course, we get to see the montage of how things were good once upon a time, blah, 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 blah. And, while all that is butterflies and feel-goods, I just had to remind myself, there was some moments of joy sprinkled in there, but then I immediately got to know it because, cool. But from season 1, episode 1, you were a married man. So while y'all have some magical moments within that, you were still a married man with a wife and children at home that you were deceiving to go spend these happy moments with Andy. So, boy, bye. Anyway, we hear that and she tells him okay, sounds good. Appreciate your apology, but I'm still not interested in skipping down memory lane with you. And what else are we talking about? And he tells her that she doesn't owe him anything, and I would hope the hell that you would think she does, and that she deserves peace. And we see this one single dramatic tear. I did not feel bad for Gary, not in the least bit. And he offers to make things right with her friends as well. And again, Andy's just standing there okay, TikTok. All right, whatever. I mean, you can kind of see in her face where she's kind of softened it to him, but she has to give the verbal, thanks but no thanks. All right. So, that conversation is happening and we kind of get this full circle moment, kind of like how Zach and Karen had a couple episodes ago where, we kind of give the final, hopefully the final straw on this relationship. We had a lot of ups and even more downs. I'm sorry. Wish you well. Merry Christmas. All right. We see Zach. Zach rolls up because Chaz has decided that he wants to come by Fatima and Zach's home to check on Fatima because the last time they talked, you know, she was a bit angry with him. Things didn't go over well, so he wanted to come by and check on her. And so, of course, Zach and basketball player Chaz are just handing off words, you know, pissing contests, whatever. And then she also tells Zach, like, okay, you know, like, there's a lot. You was also wrong in the situation, taking this fake meeting so that you could have a confrontation with Chaz. And for me, I would have had told you that in the house after Chaz had left. Like, we weren't going to do that in mixed company. But, whatever. Then she tells Zach that he was wrong for taking the meeting. And Zach is like, you know, whatever. And so they're talking and she's like, can I settle this? Can you go in the house? Because I can't navigate this with trying to run interference between the pissing match that's going on. Everything is cool. I'm gonna set the boundary. I got it. Of course, he ain't going. He steps back, but he doesn't really go in the house. And we see that Zach showed up with security, and security he basically shows Zach the mouse tool that he has in his waistband. Like, hey, don't get too froggy. And he's like, all right, like, that doesn't move me. Whatever. And so Chaz is talking to Fatima, and he says that he came by to check on her because, you know, things were a little wonky in their last conversation, and that he came to take the purse back because the purse stirred up so much drama here recently that he's just going to take the gift back. And Fatima tells him, like, yeah, that's, you know, cool, that's wonderful, that's nice, but this could have been a phone call. You ain't had to come by my house. So let's just go ahead and set the bar. You're my client. You know, we do business together, and that's the most that we will ever do. And I need you to respect that boundary, blah, blah, blah. He does admit that he low-key likes her, and she's like, you know, that's all nice and well, but it's never going to be anything other than a professional relationship. So she's reestablished the boundary. We can move forward. Of course, not good enough for Zach, but he does get the bag and returns it, and we hope that this is over. Doubt it, but we hope that this is over. Okay. Andy and Gary, they're kind of still chatting, and he is there to not only apologize, but to give his farewell because he's headed off to Ghana with him and his kids for a fresh new start. He wants to get away from his temptations and the things that are in Atlanta that could probably take him back to where he came from, all this growth that he's had. And of course, before we can get the final goodbye, Danny rolls up out the elevator because she showed up to tell Andy that, hey, Karen's missing, we need to jump to action and figure out where she is. And so she's ready to basically put belt to ass on Gary. And Eddie's like, calm down. We just talking, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. And he also offers Danny said apology on the exit, you know. So maybe this is the last we get to see of Gary. Now, he could probably show up again in season 15, probably 10, 11, 12, the way that Mr. Perry writes these things. But we hope that he's gone. And, you know, all this new weed, leaf turnoverage, all of that is nice. But I guess it's something about being this close to your maker that's really going to make you fix yourself and get it together. So I think the fact that Jasmine and Hudson were about to take him off the planet may or may not have made him a better person. Now, for me, fine and well, but I think you need to go ahead and atone for that money you done embezzled. Like, Zach still doesn't have his money that he gave you to invest. Like, all of these things have not been cleaned up. You're simply going to disappear. So there's no true apology. There's no true reckoning. You're just saying you apologize and you're heading out the country. So I'm not satisfied, but this is what we have to deal with. We see the ladies. They call Dr. Vaughn and see if maybe he has any insight on where Karen could be. And he's like, you know, that's patient client, whatever, the confidentiality thing. And he doesn't have much to offer other than letting them know, like, what we all already know. Like, she's a grieving mother right now. She's trying to navigate that, but I kind of don't really have anything that would give you insight into where she is. Best of wishes, and I'll call you back later, Andy, because he's in between, like, working with patients or whatever. So he doesn't really give us any information, but Danny does call Andy out on her secret interactions with Dr. Vaughn. So whatever. What else? There wasn't a whole lot to go over in this episode. We see Maurice, and he is entertaining, don't remember his name, but Paige's brother. And he's trying not to be a hoe, but child, by the end of the episode, child, it was kissing. So we're gonna have to deal with Maurice and a new love interest, I'm sure, within the remainder of the second half of the season. To close out the episode, we see Fatima. She's getting a call in the middle of the night. She's trying to figure out who it is. The number is unfamiliar. And she says Karen. So we're assuming that Karen called Fatima. Out of all people, she did call Fatima. And maybe Fatima was at the start of this birthing thing. And she was kind of, they had already made reckoning. And so maybe she felt comfortable calling Fatima. Not sure. Just out of the list of people, I didn't think it would be her. But whatever. Here we go. But maybe we'll get some insight into where she is. Now, throughout the whole episode, everybody's like going to her normal places, checking all these boxes, not getting no insight into where she is. Her car's not there. Nobody saw her walk away. And my question is, did anybody check the roof? I'm not saying she jumped off the roof. I'm just saying, is she up there? Am I making sense? Because like, her car's not there. She has to be within walking distance. I don't know. You know, a lot of some apartment complexes have access to the roof. Maybe she's just up there contemplating, reconsidering. I was just like, somebody go up on the roof. That's just all I wanted to say there. Either way, that's pretty much all I got for episode 12. We're back. We're going to find Karen. Hopefully it doesn't take us all the way to episode 24 to find out where she is, but here it is. I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. I'm hoping that, you know, she has not done, well, obviously she's called Fatima, so she's still with us. At least as of that call. Done anything to herself and baby Faith. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Either way, let me know what you think about the episode in the comments, and we'll talk about it there. In the meantime, like, comment, share, subscribe, or whatever it is that you feel like doing, and I'll see you in the next one.